And we are live.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the December 12th, 2022 meeting of the General Government Committee. I will be your chair this afternoon. This meeting of the General Government Committee is being held electronically and live streamed on the town's website. All members and staff in attendance are participating by audio and video teleconference. For members of the public watching from home, please bear with us if we encounter any technical difficulties throughout the meeting. I will now call this meeting to order. We would like to begin this meeting by acknowledging that the land on which we gather is situated within the traditional and treaty territory of the Mississaugas. More specifically, the Mississaugas of Scugog Island First Nation, signatories of the Gunshot Treaty of 1788 and the Williams Treaties of 1923. This land is and will continue to be home to the Indigenous peoples. Let us acknowledge the mistakes and traumas of the past through authenticity and support truth and reconciliation. Let us engage and celebrate Indigenous communities by being leaders of action in acknowledging the United Nations Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous Peoples and the Truth and Reconciliation Commission's recommendations toward truth and reconciliation. Let us keep these principles close as we continue towards truth and reconciliation and as we move forward with kindness and respect as a community. Are there any disclosures of pecuniary interest? Seeing none, thank you. We'll move to item number 3, the adoption of the minutes. We have the regular meeting from September 12, 2022. Any questions or comments on those minutes? None, so can I please have a mover? I see Regional Councillor Lee. All in favor? None opposed, thank you very much. So the consent agenda items that have been pulled today are 4.1, 4.2, 4.7, 4.9, 4.10, 4.13, 4.14, and 4.15. Could I please have a mover for the remaining items of the consent agenda? I see Councillor Tyler Morin. All in favor? Okay, thank you. So item 4.1 was pulled in order. Regional Councillor Lee, Regional Councillor Crawford, Mayor Collier. Please go ahead, Councillor Lee.
Thank you, Chair. And I guess this would be to Ms. Cruciano. I guess my question is, I noticed for a lot of these grants, and I understand we've completely revamped the program. So a lot of these grants went to pretty large organizations like Ajax Pickering Hospital, eLexicon, DRPS. These are organizations that generally would have a lot of funding at their disposal. Whereas I was always under the assumption this kind of funding was meant for, smaller kind of like smaller nonprofit kind of organizations trying to get their start and whatnot. So I was wondering if you can kind of explain the rationale of giving these larger organizations pretty large amounts.
Through the chair, thank you, Regional Councillor Lee, for the opportunity to respond to the question. I will clarify that when we undertook the reimagination of the town's corporate giving, a lot of what we focused on was finding ways to meaningfully partner with organizations. And previously, organizations like the hospital, I'll use them as an example, had a standing contribution they received from the town on an annual basis. And the purpose of the new program was to create an environment of equal footing, where we are able to partner with organizations strategically to advance the town's priorities. But in doing so, we want to make sure that all of the organizations from those small not-for-profits are on the same playing field as those larger organizations. So the new application process, which just closed last week, and that we're in the process of reviewing the applications for, have been done on an equal playing field. So the hospital is just as eligible to apply as a smaller organization, and that smaller organization can apply for up to, that $100,000 mark in the way that they previously would not have been able to do before. So the purpose is to advance some of our more strategic priorities, and sometimes that will involve partnering with the broader public sector, whether that's the hospital, DRPS, school board, the TRCA, those kinds of organizations. It's intended to not fund their expenditures that, they would normally have funded otherwise as from an operating perspective. But it's to advance those priorities that the town has that we maybe don't have the expertise to do ourselves that would benefit the community.
Okay, that actually does answer my question, so thank you. One more, specifically the ElexCon grant. I guess the way it appears on the report, it looks like they asked money for the town to install a pool cover at the town. I'm wondering kind of where does ElexCon fall into this, and like why wouldn't we just have funded this ourselves?
Through the chair, thank you again, and that's a great question. For clarity purposes, that pool cover, if we were just to purchase on our own as something the town wanted to do ourselves, the cost is close to $100,000. But ElexCon approached the town, basically saying that it's a really great opportunity from a cost savings perspective, from a utility savings. It keeps the pools warmer. It also helps us, I guess, save the number of chemicals or the amount of chemicals that we use because it stops the evaporation by having a pool cover in place. However, there are none of these pool covers like this one that are installed anywhere in Ontario. And so ElexCon, was looking to promote these for municipal pools and other sort of public pools throughout Ontario, or particularly their catchment region. But they didn't have a pilot that they could point to and say, well, in this case, it saved this real life example, X amount of dollars per year. So they asked us if we would partner with them to install the pool cover at a substantially discounted rate. And then we would, or they would help us track those savings that they could then reference when working with other organizations.
Great. That actually sounds like a super cool initiative, and hopefully we can partner with them more often for 90% cost savings. That sounds great. Those are all my questions. Thank you, Chair, for the letting me ask them. Thank you.
Absolutely. Next, we have Regional Councillor Crawford. Go ahead, please.
Thank you. Through you, Ms. Chair, to Ms. Cruciano. So this was very successful, this past application, has it not been?
Through the chair, yes. The 2023 Ajax Partnership Fund, so the inaugural year, we received about 80 applications totaling just over $3 million in maximum asks from the town.
Wow, and were these organizations like we're seeing here, or are they more like grassroots residents asking?
Through the chair, we received a good cross-section, I would say. We received applications from these larger organizations. The hospital submitted one, the TRCA submitted one. I'll name drop. You'll get the full report in January. But we also did receive from a number of small organizations, those that are, a couple of individuals that, had a great idea and some partnerships on their own, and some private businesses that, are looking for ways to partner with us to give back to the community. So it was a good cross-section. I would say the bulk were smaller organizations and not the kind of larger, broader public sector, but it was a good cross-section, I would say.
Excellent. Thank you very much. I think this is a good news story for our whole community. Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair.
You're welcome. Mayor Collier, you are next on the speakers list. Go ahead, please.
Actually, my questions have been answered, Chair. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Are there any other questions regarding 4.1? Okay, so I just have one. Ms. Cruciano, thank you for this report. I agree with Regional Councillor Crawford. Great, happy news story. So just my own curiosity, after these grants were approved, is there, for anyone who didn't receive funding, would there have been maybe a ranking? So let's say there were 20 approved, one of them maybe fell through for whatever reason. Would you then be able to go to application 21 and approve that, or is there a different system in place?
So through the chair, in this case, for the ones that are reported in this report to GGC, these were one-off asks, so they weren't run through any of our standard processes because the Ajax Partnership Fund wasn't in place yet. So this was based on the council direction from June to engage in quote-unquote strategic partnerships. And so we really, in most cases where we were approached with opportunities, we said yes, because it was ad hoc and we had the ability to do that. Moving forward for next year, year. Obviously, with 80 applications and about $3 million in asks, we will not be in a position to approve everyone, right? And there may be some reasons why or why not. So what we will be doing for those that are unsuccessful, they will be given an opportunity to connect with staff to get some feedback on their application, why they perhaps did not score as well, and kind of our thought process behind the decision. Our intention is to be very, very transparent, and also provide them with some guidance to apply for the next round. So being unsuccessful in one round does not preclude them from applying again. And in fact, we want to work with organizations to be successful when they're not successful the first time around.
Okay, great. Okay, thank you very much. Okay, those are the questions for 4.1. Can I please have a mover to accept this report? I saw Regional Councillor Lee's hand first. All in favor? Any opposed? Okay, thank you, that carries. Item 4.2, the operating budget forecast 2022 and COVID-related financial impact. That was pulled by Mayor Collier. Please go ahead.
Thank you, Chair. Just give me a second to find my notes, please. More general questions through you to Ms. Mepham. I'm wondering, this is a significant surplus. I haven't seen where we stand on our budget target yet. When will we be getting that information, please?
To Mayor Collier through the chair, staff are currently putting together the operating budget target right now, and we will be meeting with SMT in the next week or so to take a look at the first look at where we're at, and again, I can maybe defer to CEO Baker on when we will be communicating that to council.
Please.
Thank you. Through you, Madam Chair. Yeah, I haven't seen the number myself, or as stated by Julie, and SMT is looking forward to seeing where we are with all of that. I would expect early in the year we should be in a position to be able to. We have a fair bit of work to do at the SMT table. There's still we are aware of all of the staffing asks, for instance, but we haven't gone through and prioritized and decided what should be on, what should be off. Actually, that's a discussion we're having this week. So there's still a fair bit of work to do, but I would expect in the first month or two, hopefully by the end of January, we'll be in a position to communicate to council.
And well, thank you. But normally we would be having this discussion, I think, around November. I understand it was pushed back because of the election, but budget is in February.
Yes, but as through you, Madam Chair, as you will recall, Mr. Mayor, we don't seek we haven't, since I've been here, sought a council direction as to a number for what we're targeting. Staff brings forward what the needs are of the organization and makes a recommendation. I would be, meeting with my staff and then yourself to educate you as to where we're sitting, and we work through it until we make it forward to council.
Okay, well, I guess having a fairly significant surplus is not a bad thing. It speaks to good fiscal management. And but again, it also speaks to the fact of our operating budget, and when residents see this, they'll put two and two together and figure we shouldn't have any type of increase next year. So I understand some of these are extenuating circumstances, it won't be repeated, but we also have some things like annualization of our firefighters, for instance, that we're going to be looking at this year. And I would rather have those numbers sooner rather than later, so we can look at some ways to do this, hopefully without having significant impact to the bottom line. So I look forward to that in January. Just to this, when I looked at the suggested allocation, it didn't add up to the entire amount from what I saw. Let me find the chart. So that's right. Hold on. I can't find it just here, but Julie, where you talked about putting some towards the different capital accounts, it didn't add up to the full 3-point-something million.
No, through the chair, we left a little bit. We identified the ones that the allocation where we knew we would need to fund the over budgets. Like, were you speaking to the surpluses at the end of the report, like the pressure? Sorry, the allocation.
No, I think I was speaking to, you had suggested a number of capital accounts we were going to allocate the surplus to, as per our FSP.
Right. So this has to be all discussed with our senior management team, and so that when the actual allocation of operating budget surplus does come forward in the new year, the allocations would be identified at that point. We have an idea on where some of the funding would be required, but at this point, we weren't ready to commit it to any specific reserve, pending the discussion at the senior management table.
Okay, so this recommendation report is received for information. Will that come back to council, or is that SMT solely that makes that decision on the allocation? CEO Baker?
Thank you. Through you, Madam Chair. To your exact point, Mr. Mayor, there are lots of opportunity with this surplus, and you know the reasons for the surplus are provided for in the report, but totally understand your position regarding residents' perspective of where we are. But we, as the senior management team, see lots of opportunities here to reduce the 2023 obligations, for instance, like the firefighters and so on, and that our view of how the surplus should be used outside of the FSP will be absolutely recommended to council.
Okay, perfect. Thank you so much. Thank you, staff. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Next, I see Regional Councillor Crawford. Go ahead, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I would also, I know this is not discussion about where things are going to be going. I understand that, but I really think that anytime we have a surplus, I don't know why we don't have a stormwater reserve. I know we're talking about a way of funding the stormwater issues, but I think that anytime we have a surplus, we should be putting money into a reserve that we know we're going to have to use in the near future. So I would like to see some of this considered for that kind of situation. I know this is not the place we're discussing it. I just want to say that I think that this is a huge hole in our budget. And instead of, I would love to be able to start to build that reserve so that we're not having to be in a situation later on. And like, I think I've said this every single budget since I've been a regional councillor. So I would really like to see that actually be created. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Crawford. Would you like to respond to that, Julie?
Yes, I would if I could. Through the chair, staff are working, staff actually have been asked by council in a previous last year to develop a stormwater user fee that will be charged to recoup the cost of managing our stormwater infrastructure and the services we provide. So staff, along with the operating budget, are working towards bringing this in conjunction with the operating budget forward in January.
Thank you. And CAO Baker.
Thank you. Through you, Madam Chair, to Regional Councillor Crawford. I totally understand what you're saying, Councillor Crawford, that it's fine to bring forward the user fee, which we absolutely need to do in the future, but there is an opportunity here to actually start a reserve as well. So yes, that is a discussion that we'll be discussing at the senior management team as well.
Thank you. If I may, Madam Chair, that is what I'm talking about, that this should be, we should have been socking away a bit of money all the time when we had a reserve, so that, perhaps the user fee could have been used differently or done differently. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Are there any other questions from members of the committee? Seeing none, could I please have a mover for the recommendation in this report? I see Mayor Collier. All in favor? Thank you. That carries. The next item, consent agenda item, is 4.7, and that was pulled, various appointments and nominations to boards and committees. It was pulled by Regional Councillor Crawford. Go ahead, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. My question around this is, I noticed that we are approving the board for the library board, and I'm wondering why we haven't seen the board for the AMHC board. I know we did do an approval of this in I think it was the last year. However, I would think this would be the perfect opportunity to have that board approved again.
Director Cooper?
Yes, thank you, Chair. To Councillor Crawford. Yes, so as you might recall, the Board of AMHC was pre-approved in, I believe, April 2022. So they are currently serving their terms, which have not yet expired. And this, like the two appointees from council run with the term of council. So this is essentially plugging in the two names of the council members that will also serve on that board. So there's no purpose in revisiting the other appointments to the board at that time, as they're elected by the corporation. They're just pre-approved at this council, and that was done in April of 2022.
So no reason to note it.
Sorry, no reason to revisit it. No, not
note it. Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. The next person I see is Councillor Henry. Do you have a question?
I do. This is 4.7 we're speaking of, right? Various appointments. So with regards, excuse me for when I just have to change screens. Give me 1 minute here. Yeah, so with regards to this, myself and Councillor Morin are sharing time on accessibility, correct?
Yes, I believe it's proposed that it rotates halfway through the term. Yes.
Okay, so I through the chair, I've spoken with Councillor Moore and he has no objection to this. I like to be able to spend the 4 years with accessibility. So I guess I would put forward an amendment that the appointment be amended as such that Nancy Henry's term on appointment to Accessibility Advisory Committee be for the full term ending in 2026. Can I do that at this point in time?
So could we have that amendment now, Madam Clerk or Mr. McWilliams?
Yes, the amendment's in order. I just I discussed with this with Councillor Henry earlier, and it is actually established in the terms of reference for that committee that the council appointee will rotate halfway through. So I think there's just a second part that's needed in the motion to make that change, which has to be approved by council. So I have proposed some wording, and Councillor Henry, if it's okay with you, we can certainly put that up on the screen so that everybody can. Yeah. Okay. So
Thank you.
Jason, if you could go ahead and do that.
Yep, just one moment here.
Okay, so I see it. It says that the list of appointments be amended such that Nancy Henry's term of appointment to the Accessibility Advisory Committee, thank you, be for the full term of council ending 2026, and that staff be directed to amend the terms of reference for the AAC to remove the requirement that the council appointee shall rotate midterm in order to enable the above appointment. Okay, Councillor Henry, would you like to speak to this?
Yes, thank you. As a person with multiple disabilities, I'd really like to spend my full time in this advisory committee and get to learn more about it, what has been done, what needs to be done going forward. I think I'd be able to bring a lot to this committee. And if no one objects, I'd like to stay there for the 4 years.
Thank you. Are there any other questions or anyone like to speak to that? I see Mayor Collier's hand. Go ahead.
Thank you, Chair. And while I respect the council's position, I mean, we established these policies for a reason. And the reason was because council wanted to get experience on a number of different things, which is why we put in at the region as well the opportunity to rotate after 2 years going through. It's also good to give the representatives on the committee exposure to different councillors and different points of view. So I understand what Councillor Henry is trying to say, but there's lots of things I'd like to do too, but the policies were in place for a reason and they don't always work that way. So I'm pretty happy with the way this is. We only established it, I think, last term. I'm not sure. Maybe the clerk can clarify that for me, but I think we just established this not long ago for that exact reason.
Yes. Yes, thank you. I believe it was established for the first time last term. Sarah Moore's on the call and can correct me if I'm wrong in that, but it was, yeah, by and large for the very reasons that you've outlined, Mayor Collier. Okay.
Well, I guess it doesn't affect me. I want council, especially after COVID and everybody being kind of sidelined for a couple of years, to really be able to get in-depth knowledge of as many different things and learn the business as well as they can. But I guess I'd like to hear from those councillors who will be affected, because they'll have to stay. I think Councillor Tyler Morin will have to stay on Heritage for the entire term. I guess I'd like to hear about those who are affected, how they feel before I make a decision on this, please. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Collier. Councillor Tyler Morin, would you like to respond, please?
Yeah, I spoke to Councillor Henry today and she asked. I also spoke to some people on Heritage. There's been different sort of points of views, and sometimes it's good if you can sort of lock in, like the regional councillor alternate position, where you kind of, you stay for the entire time. So, I'm okay with it. I understand the mayor's point, because I always want to get educated and think wider. But I was asked, and I said I was okay with it. But always wanted to learn more. But at this time, I'm okay with being on Heritage for the 4 years, which I also want to really get into because a lot of it affects or encompasses Ward 1 in Pickering Village. And there's a lot in there that I'm looking forward to get into. So thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Tyler Morin. I see Regional Councillor Lee. Go ahead.
Thank you, Chair. I just have a question, and I should have asked this, I guess, the last time we went over this, but is there a mechanism for a committee to remove or to request for council members to be switched? For example, library is separate from this because it's its own board, but let's say Heritage says, oh, we actually want, to the mayor's point, we actually want a different point of view. Can we request another councillor? Is there a mechanism for that or no? I guess this would be to the clerk.
Thank you. Not that I'm aware of it. So I've never seen that occur. I expect that would just begin with a discussion behind the scenes, and it would go from there. But I think the purpose of introducing the midterm rotation was to sort of accomplish that preemptively. Got it.
Okay. Thank you. Just my point of view is it's, to the mayor's point, it doesn't really affect me. That both councillors seem okay with it, and it's something we actually did. It looks like previously, so it's just we're kind of going back to an older way of going. So I would have personally no objection to this. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, you're welcome. Mayor Collier, I saw your hand go up again. Would you like to speak?
I just thought of one other thing, Chair. I wonder if Ms. Moore could, as the staff representative on all the advisory committees, maybe speak to her interactions and maybe her thoughts on why this was set up, if she's on the call.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Moore.
Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and through you, Madam Chair. It was introduced, you are correct, at the introduction of the last term of council to rotate council representatives on both of the advisory committees midterm. And that came through consultation with the advisory committee members themselves and the increased interest in sort of that new perspectives, sharing of experiences, broadening the understanding of the advisory committees with council and the understanding of committee members with the role of council. So to build that broader familiarity, we did introduce the rotation. If you had referred to the survey that was conducted at the end of this term that was included in item 4.6 in the agenda package, it has been very well received by the committee members to rotate the councillor membership throughout the term, but it is at the discretion of the committee to make that decision.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Moore. I think, Chair, this is not time sensitive. I mean, with the decision we make today is for the next 2 years. This is something I think we can revisit in 2 years if it's an issue. And Councillor Henry might get on his committee and really not like it. Who knows? And same with Councillor Tyler Moore. And I think I would rather just refer this and deal with it in 2 years at the appropriate time. If they have decided then that they still want to go ahead, great. I mean, I did meet with every member of council before and had this discussion on the committees they wanted, and we set all this stuff up. Councillor Henry, we had a meeting that had to be cut short a little bit, but I think I'd rather refer this and deal with it in 2 years when it comes forward. I'll make that motion.
Okay, so Madam Clerk, could I call, you had wanted to comment on the motion right now and also for direction on how to proceed, please.
Oh, thank you. Yes, I apologize. I just wanted to clarify. I didn't quite understand in our email communications that the intent was to have Councillor Tyler Morin serve on Heritage Advisory Committee for the full 4 years. So if that's what's being proposed, we'll just have to make some adjustments to the amendment afterwards to reflect that it would be Councillor Henry. Oh, sorry. Am I understanding this incorrectly, Councillor Tyler Morin?
If I may, through the chair, I thought that was sort of what would happen if I said, sure, if you want to stay on accessibility for the 4 years, I'll stay on. So if there's an opportunity for me to be on another committee that isn't accessibility that I could switch to, but I didn't think there was, would it be library, or am I right that there's really no other options? Or would I switch with Lisa, who has, let's say, para?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. Look, you know, I don't have to be included in this. I think the objective was just that Councillor Henry expressed to me that she wanted to be on accessibility for the full 4 years. I can sort of, you know, you don't have to amend my positioning, because I'm okay with, you know, doing the 4 years or the 2 years and then switching to another one that isn't accessibility.
Just, sorry, point of order, Chair. The referral motion is on the floor.
Yes, if I could have direction, please, on how shall we handle this first and then Mayor Colliers, or what do we do?
Well, I just felt it important to get clarity on what the motion is actually proposing. Mayor Colliers quite right that the motion to refer takes precedent and should be voted on immediately, but I don't think we have clarity on what the actual motion is at this point. And we need to know what we're referring here, right? So my understanding of Councillor Henry's intent was that her term of appointment on AAC would be extended to 4 years, but she would still serve the latter 2 years on Heritage Advisory Committee and therefore would sit on both for the final 2 years. But if the intention was rather to do a swap, then I think we will need to just clarify, like make some minor changes to the motion to reflect that Councillor Tyler Morin's term of appointment to Heritage Advisory Committee would also be affected, and we would need to also update the terms of reference accordingly. So perhaps Councillor Henry could clarify her intention, and then we can move to the referral motion.
Thank you.
Yes, through the chair, my intentions were to stay on advisory for the 4 years and not on any other committees. And can I ask a question at this time, or would I be out of order?
Is it about your motion?
Pardon me?
The question is about your motion?
With regards to my motion, yes.
Well, referral motion is on the floor, Chair.
Okay, referral motion is on the floor, so let's deal with that first. So we are referring, Mayor Collier has put forth the motion to refer this decision until after 2 years. Is that right, Mayor Collier?
Until yeah, the start of 2025, four, or till December 2024, which is when we will be getting ready to enter the next 2 years and where this change would take place, and just revisit it then.
So with this referral, the appointments of Councillor Henry to AAC and Councillor Tyler Morin to HAC for the term 22 and 23 would remain as is, and this motion will be brought back up in December 2024.
Yeah, rather than change policies and everything else, let it run its course and revisit it.
I'm okay with that. Through the chair, I'm okay with that.
Okay, so let's see. Okay, so the referral motion on the floor is refer Councillor Henry's motion amending appointments to December 2024 brought forward by Mayor Collier. Let's call the vote. All in favor? Any opposed? Okay, that's fine. That carries. Thank you. So, are there any other questions about report 4.7 before we move on? And could I please have a mover to receive 4.7?
I'll move it.
Thank you, Regional Councillor Crawford. All in favor? Okay, thank you. The next item is consent agenda 4.9, which was pulled by Regional Councillor Sterling Lee. Go ahead, please.
Thank you, Chair. I almost forgot I pulled that. This is a question to, I guess, operations. The first question is, have all the trees been picked up? Because I was under the impression that this process could take upwards into 2023. And I may have misheard that when it was explained to me at the time, but generally from the storm has been reported by residents, everything's been picked up?
Through the chair to Regional Councillor Lee, that is correct. We had, as the report indicated, just under 600 work orders that have been responded to either by town staff or our contracted service. There still are, some trees and outstanding work orders that we are responding to. We can't confirm 100% whether that was as a result of the windstorm or whether there's subsequent events that have happened since that time. So from our knowledge and based on what we've tracked, we have completed and followed up on the outstanding work orders that were part of this report.
And then the way we responded to the trees, was it like, because we had a few contractors helping us out with this. Was it like a priority basis? Like, was it based on like residents? Did staff to kind of do a run through, know where the trees are, then kind of send it back to these people? Like, can you just kind of briefly, I guess, explain just the process of how each contractor worked within the framework of the town?
So what we would have at a staff level, staff would determine the priorities. We have a supervisor with respect to urban forestry as well as an urban forest technician. So when calls and inquiries would come in, they would respond, they would assess the risk associated with each work order and then prioritize on that basis. So obviously from a health and safety perspective, those are first and foremost where direction was provided to our arborists or our contractors, and that work was prioritized. Basically, our supervisor and urban forest techs were on the street on a regular basis, pretty much full time for a couple of months, reviewing, looking at work order requests and prioritizing work. So it wasn't a priority basis. And as you may recall, in July and August, we also extended and really expanded our level of service, because once we had dealt with the priority trees and got rid of the risks and the safety hazards, we offered both town staff and contractors to remove curbside branches that residents had placed curbside. That's typically something that the region responds to, but obviously from a service delivery standpoint, there are some challenges on that front over the course of spring and summer. So for July and August, town staff and contractors also collected and chipped debris sort of along the curbside as homeowners sort of placed their branches there. So we actually expanded our service, which extended the time that we were responding to some of the trees well into the fall of this year.
Any chance we can bill back the region for those services?
No, I don't think so.
Yeah, all joking aside, I knew the answer to that one. You know, at over 500,000, it's not, you know, it was a disaster type event. I get that. Ideally, it's not going to happen very often. But does this kind of change our tree planting policy going forward for these kind of like boulevard trees? Like, are we going to plant less of them, or is there a sturdier tree we can look into? Because like, I'd hate for these kind of environmental events to happen again, and then we're on the hook again, possibly for another 500,000 of cleanup of just like, I love trees, don't get me wrong, but is there any sort of paradigm shift in the way we're approaching just the aesthetics and the practicality of cleaning up should these events happen?
Your question is actually quite timely because in the fall of sort of summer and fall of this past year, we completed our urban forest management plan update. So it will be coming to council in the early part of 2023, probably in the January, February timeframe, and it speaks to that exact question. So it speaks to the health of the tree canopy, sort of where it was a number of years ago versus where it is today. The number of trees that we've lost as a result of development or storms or what have you, those that we planted, identifying, you know, sort of future planting locations, but also identifying sort of a more diverse tree inventory that we're looking to establish as well. So you'll see all of those recommendations in terms of the future direction for the town's urban forest within that report planned in January or February of 23.
Great. Thank you very much for those answers. I think you and your team did an amazing job. So thank you for that. And looking forward to seeing that report. Thank you, Chair.
You're welcome. Are there any other questions for 4.9? Okay, seeing none, could I please have a remover?
I'll move it as well.
Thank you, Regional Councillor Lee. All in favor? None opposed. Thank you. That carries. 4.10 was pulled by Regional Councillor Crawford. Please go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And staff did reach out to me. I just want to actually, if you don't mind, just saying the answer when I ask it. My question on this one was around the length of the contract. I thought it was kind of long, but there's obviously an answer for it. So in the recommendation, it talks about renewing a contract for an additional 6 one-year periods. And my question was, that seemed like a long time. And so I just was questioning staff. I don't know, I'm not sure if, is it Renal that will answer this question or the other gentleman that emailed me?
Through the chair to Regional Councillor Crawford. I can take a first sort of stab at the response. I did have a chance to speak to Russell as well. I think Russell, who you're referencing, Regional Councillor Crawford. There's really 3 components to, I guess, the rationale behind sort of the 7 years. First of all, in the current environment that we're in and trying to secure sort of pricing over the long term, I think in order to get more competitive pricing, sometimes the longer contracts or the longer term contracts does provide better pricing. We're also able to build in inflation at 2% when they're building on these multi-year contracts. So I think one is from a pricing standpoint, we did have 6 good competitive bids relating to this contract award. So feel comfortable with the value, the fact that it was competitively priced, and that we've locked in pricing at a 2% inflation rate over that period of time as well. As you mentioned, the way the contract is worded, where it is a 1 year plus 6 additional 1-year contracts, it allows us and ensures that we are evaluating and renewing contracts on an annual basis. So it's not like we're awarding it for a 7-year period and we're locked into that period. If
that was one of my questions, yeah.
If they do fail to perform, we've got a process where we document and we can sort of terminate it at the end of any of those individual years. So that's why you'll see generally all of our contracts are set up that way. So they're still performance-based, that there are outs if a contractor fails to perform. The third is with these types of contracts, especially our streetlight contract and this one, which is more of our parks, parking lots and trail lighting, is there's a fair amount of training that we invest with the contractors as well. It does tie into our GIS system where they are updating, conditions, work order information, and so forth with respect to the lighting infrastructure. So again, as opposed to every few years having to retrain contract staff to come in and perform this work. A longer term serves us better from that perspective as well.
Okay, that's great. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Mayor Collier, did you have a question?
Yes, Chair, thank you. Just follow up to Councillor Crawford's question. Mr. Meredith, is this not an award to replace a previously given award, a different company that wasn't performing?
No, this is the end of the contract, and we go through the procurement process and re-award the contract, but it was not based on poor performance.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you, Director Meredith. Are there any other questions about the report? Okay, seeing none, could I please have a mover?
I'll move it.
Thank you, Regional Councillor Crawford. All in favor? None opposed? Thank you. That's carried. Regional Councillor Crawford also pulled 4.13. Go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Really quickly on this one, is this the trail that has been flooded forever that's being replaced or reconstructed?
Through the chair, this is Cameron Richardson here. Yes, you're correct. It's the trail that's been flooded for several years.
Good. The biking community will be very, very, very happy. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Excellent. Are there any other questions?
I'll move it if there's no other questions.
I was going to ask you if you'd like to move it, and you would. All in favor? Thank you. That carries. 4.14 was pulled by Mayor Collier. Please go ahead.
Thank you, Chair. Through you to staff. I'm happy to support this, but I have a few questions. I remember when Index was going through their site plan process and a number of upgrades being done to the facility, and was supposed to be a large reduction to a very large polluter in our community. One of those things that was supposed to be done, I believe, was upgrades to the steam lines to provide this district energy that is talked about in the report. Was that work done? Has all the work that's supposed to have been done been completed at this point? Mr. Romanowski.
Yeah, thank you for the question. Through the chair to Mayor Collier. Stev Andis is also on the line, as she was the author of this report. Stev, are you able to answer that question with regards to the steam lines?
Yes, I am. Through you, Madam Chair, to Mayor Collier. The steam lines, the upgrade of steam lines has not occurred. It was not part of the original site plan approval. It was something that was reviewed through the site plan approval and through a concurrent land use study in that employment area. There would be significant cost to replacement of those steam lines. So with Index Energy, the current owner, soon to be purchased by EcoGen, they did not undertake any of that work.
Okay, but I did read about being a, what do they call it? A regional
district energy.
District energy.
Yes.
That would involve using the steam and distributing it. So are they talking about now doing those upgrades to the steam lines as part of this project?
Yes, through you, Madam Chair, to Mayor Collier. This is something that EcoGen has expressed to myself and Mr. Tomasi as future plans to have the facility transition into a true district energy facility. So the provision of steam or the provision of hot and cold water to future developments around the facility is a direction in which the EcoGen is looking to progress.
So we don't have anything in writing to that effect as a condition for this letter. It's just if they get these extra points and they get the award, they might do this?
So this resolution is to support their application to feed directly into the electrical grid. So this is not to feed directly to developments surrounding the facility.
Okay. I guess what I'm asking is I'm always you know, you scratch my back, I'll scratch yours kind of guy. If we're going to do this for them to assist them, great. I want to see them move forward, but I would like to see some community benefit as well.
Through you, Madam Chair, to Mayor Collier, we can have, myself and Mr. Tomasi can have further discussions with the Index and EcoGen people. We are actually meeting with them later this week in person, so we can have those conversations. However, the transition to a true district energy facility would also rely on surrounding developments and extending the infrastructure or creating that new infrastructure from the facility to those new developments. It's something that would have to happen incrementally because of the, I guess, current state of the facility, and that right now they are only providing steam to the Ajax Textiles use.
Okay. Well, I assume if and when Hunt Street goes ahead, that will form part of that. I certainly hope anyway. I know we'd reached out a few times to Index unsuccessfully to arrange perhaps a tour after the work was done. Is there a possibility of that going forward? Mr. Tomasi, maybe?
To Mr. Mayor, we could absolutely arrange for that. Right now, we have a really good relationship with both EcoGen and Index Energy. Myself, actually, I haven't toured it myself, but my staff have toured it. And so we absolutely could do that for you, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, and has there been any talk about them getting involved in the community and as a community partner?
We, through the chair to Mr. Mayor, we haven't elevated our talks to that topic yet, but as our conversations continue, I think that we will get to there. It is a fluid situation where right now we've kind of are starting the beginning stages of our relationship.
Okay, well, I look forward to updates going ahead. That's the balance of my questions, Chair, and I'm happy to move this item at the appropriate time. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Collier. Next, I saw Regional Councillor Dyes. Go ahead, please.
Thank you, Chair. Just to staff, it mentions that these upgrades are also going to be part of this pre-chipping of clean wood waste. That's a facility they're going to build out in Oshawa. So is the timing the same for both of those projects? Is it really dependent on that wood chipping facility?
Through Madam Chair, to Regional Councillor Dyes, the wood chipping facility is something that Index Energy and EcoGen have been looking at previous to this additional long-term contract that the IASO has put out. But it will definitely help in supplying a steady stream of chipped wood waste to the facility as it expands.
So is it just chipped wood waste, or is it the pelletized waste?
It is chipped clean wood waste.
Because I know for years and years they've been talking about pelletized waste.
Correct. The previous administration, I guess under Index Energy, had initially looked at pelletized wood waste. However, their environmental compliance approval is only for clean wood waste.
Okay, thank you. And I too would really look forward to having that tour after all these years. We never did see it when it was newly refurbished, so that would be great. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other questions? Seeing none, the mayor has moved the recommendation in the report. So we'll vote. All in favor? Any opposed? None. That carries. Thank you. And the last item pulled on the consent agenda was 4.15, and it was pulled first by Regional Councillor Crawford and then second by Mayor Collier. Go ahead, Marilyn.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Through you to, I guess, Director Romanowski for now, or Sean, sorry. My first question is, does Bill 23 have any mechanisms that would force developers to speed up their delivery from the time the permits are approved to project completion?
So through the chair to Regional Councillor Crawford, there's nothing in Bill 23 that speaks directly to that. There's a couple of items that are nominal that they would lose some of the benefits from Bill 23 if they were slow to start construction. So the only one that comes directly to mind is a freeze on parkland dedication and the value of land, but that piece is very nominal. Everything else, there's nothing in the legislation that would require that to speed up.
So we hear a lot from Build, right? We hear a lot, like they seem to be the voice of the developer. I'm hearing that developers are trying to figure out how they're going to build all of these houses with, like, is the demand really there? Are you hearing anything from developers at all? Like directly, not Build, directly.
So through the chair to Regional Councillor Crawford, nothing that I've heard indicates that, but I have, during the consultation, during the Housing Task Force report, there was a lot of conversation about, the supply chain issues that we had and severe staff shortages, I guess. And that was coming from the political side, but it was the messaging that they were hearing from the development community, that there simply was not enough construction workers to build these houses. So that was a concern that was identified early on.
Okay. This, I think, will probably go to finance. What impact will Bill 23 have on the average tax bill? Do we know that information yet? Have you done any kind of digging into it?
Through the chair to Regional Councillor Crawford, no, we have not done any detailed calculations such as that. It will really depend on a number of factors. So again, it's all dependent on the type of the development that we get, the determination from the legal standpoint as to what types of studies are ineligible and so on. So we're still combing through all that data and trying to work with our municipal partners to determine that. What I can say is that we will be tracking the impact of Bill 23. So again, whether it's a new budget line item that comes forward or, we need to discuss internally how we're going to do that. We will be tracking it. And because we do want to understand what those impacts will have on the operating budget and on the tax rate.
Thank you. I'm just wondering, as everybody knows, we just added 20 new firefighters to our fire services. With this kind of building happening in Ajax, what does that mean to fire services? Have we had a chance to have that discussion with them? And, with Mayor Collier on the police board, it does impact the police also. I hear often at Regional Council that we do not have currently enough police officers to, based on the growth right now of Durham Region. So if you add all of this housing into it, there has to be impact to fire services and police services. So I'm hoping that, I'm not saying that we are leaving them out, but I don't even know if Aaron is on the line, our acting chief right now, around, what are the discussions around police services? Or sorry, fire services. Sorry about that.
For the chair to Regional Councillor Crawford. At this point, we've mainly been monitoring the situation. Moving forward, we are going to be watching very carefully to see what type of impacts there will be to the fire service, but I think you are heading in the right direction. With any type of intensification, increase in population is going to drive an increase in emergency responses.
Right. And I mean, I don't know what type of build it will be, whether it be up or if there's going to be like regular detached houses. But anyway, so my last question would be, what impact will this have on our ability to deliver our existing infrastructure plans and maintain our current service levels? Has anyone dug into that?
So through the chair to Regional Councillor Crawford, we're working through that at the moment. We are in the process of updating our DC background study for next year. But given the recent announcements that there could be a potential extension of the existing DC background study for another 5 years, we're working with our consultants to determine whether, in fact, we do have to update our DC background study, which would mean updating all our costing and all of our construction related information. If we don't proceed that way, then, we're evaluating the pros and the cons and what that may mean for our future infrastructure projects that will be coming forward over the next, 5 to 10 years.
Okay, thank you very much. I appreciate your responses.
Great, thank you. Next, we have Mayor Collier and then local councillor Tyler Morin. Go ahead, Mayor.
Thank you, Chair. And Councillor Crawford's questions are bang on. You've outlined a number of things that we've been discussing at Big City Mayors as well on how we're going to deal with all these things. And, we've just undergone, I think, 4 or 5 different studies this last term based on a set projections and numbers that are all kind of out the window now. I looked at some numbers today in the my question, which is under correspondence in the council agenda about the Envision Durham process and the land allocation. And Ajax is now projected by 2051 to have 199,000+ people. We're supposed to have 132,000 at grow out, I think. Sorry, 120,000 at grow out in 2031. So you're right, Councillor Crawford. I mean, all these numbers, when we did the new fire hall and hired the last round of firefighters back in 2007, I think, we were told those are the last firefighters we're going to have to hire. And now we just hired 20 more, and the fire master plan is calling for, I think, another 7 more based on now. And also, you're exactly right with, they keep looking to municipalities, yet nobody's looking at the builders. And this is exactly what you brought up. There's a lot of builders sitting on approved site plans and lands, just banking the lands. And let's talk about Seaton for a second. 10 years ago, Seaton was approved through the last iteration of the Municipal Comprehensive Review under, I don't know how many tens of millions of dollars it's cost the region and the developers to service that. And it was supposed to be pulling 600 permits a year and been grown out by this year. It's been pulling 200 permits a year. And this is lands that are already serviced and ready to go. And they won't be grown out till 2031 at their current rate. Yet the province is pulling out all the stops and trying to push and push, which we support, but not with all these unintended consequences. So I don't actually have a question other than, what do you think the odds are, Jeff or Sean, of the province actually listening to our comments? Because I think they're slim to none. But Ontario Big City Mayor just sent pretty much similar to the province last week on behalf of all 29 of those municipalities. And we are pushing very hard as well. But I do support all the staff comments, and I just wanted to make that quick rant. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Mayor Collier. I don't know if Director or Mr. McCullough, if you have a response for that. If not, we'll move to Councillor Tyler Morin.
Through the chair to council, I don't have a response to that, but David Wilkes from Build was on the CBC this morning talking to Ismaila Alfi and asked a lot of the same questions that this council's been asking of the various versions or the EROs and the postings and the delays and the timing. And there's lots of units out there that have approval that haven't been acted upon or built, and not a lot of answers to those questions this morning on that particular interview. But yeah, I think what the information that the mayor and Councillor Crawford had put forward, yeah, definitely all of those things are in our minds as well. So thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Tyler Morin, go ahead, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And through you to maybe Mayor Collier or Mr. Romanowski, Director Romanowski. So in our council agenda on page 168, attachment 1, it says Proposed Planning Act and Development Charges Act changes. So, if everyone already knows this answer, I apologize for the question, but For the DC charges, the changes that are coming, are those changes only on subsidized units? So if there's a set of, I don't want to use the word normal, but a set of homes that are built, 100 homes that are built, they're just sent out into the market, they cost $1.2 million each. Do we still collect development charges and all those as per usual? Or is that changing now? Or is it just on for subsidized units, financially subsidized units?
Through the chair to Councillor Tyler Moore, and maybe Julie, you can jump in after if I miss anything, but there's a lot of changes to development charges and charges collected under the Planning Act, such as parkland dedication and community benefits charge. There are a couple of items that would exempt affordable housing and what the province is referring to as attainable housing units. It would exempt them from paying those charges, but there are a lot of charges that will apply to all development. Our rates will be impacted based on the time horizon that's used to calculate those rates. There is an incremental increase on new development charges that would apply over a 5-year period. That's going to apply to all charges. And some of these impacts are already in effect today. So we're even seeing at the region is looking at their development charges because housing fees that were to pay for housing services at the region have already been pulled out, and the region is no longer permitted to collect that, and that applies to all units across the board. So the vast majority of the changes apply to everything, but there is, of course, a few items in here that staff did support for moving towards promoting affordable housing and things like that. But by and large, a lot of these changes will impact us immediately, and they are significant.
Okay, if I may, another question through your chair to staff again. So just for my clarity, at this time, or actually moving forward, will we still be collecting development charges? Like, is there something that hasn't changed in it? Like, like a regular home that's built, trying to watch my wording here. If it's built, can we still collect the development charges as per usual on a set of homes that aren't subsidized or aren't affordable housing? Is that still happening?
Yes, to Councillor Tyler Morin, through the chair. Yes, so if it is a greenfield home, for example, it's not rental, it's not subsidized at market rent as defined in the new legislation. Yes, we will still be able to collect our full DC rate, but anything that is coming forward through future regulations, there could be some discounts that we will have to apply, and that's where we don't have all the data currently to determine exactly what that will the impacts to us.
Fair enough. Okay, thank you for your answers. I understand this is very complicated, and I'm trying to properly overly simplify it, but thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Are there any other questions about the report? I see Regional Councillor Dyes and then Councillor Henry. Go ahead, Joanne.
Thank you. Kind of a follow-up to Rob Tyler Moran's question about the building subdivisions basically on greenfields. So if I'm correct, we are currently building our last part of greenfield up on Church Street. So those days are gone, and the intention, I believe, is to do the infill sites and intensification within our urban boundary. Is that correct?
So through the chair to Regional Councillor Dyes, that is correct. We still have some land up, you're correct, up north on Church Street, and there's still a little bit down the southeast, just off the Shoal Point as well. But by and large, a lot of our growth moving forward will be through intensification.
So I also heard the CBC broadcast with Build, and it's interesting because they always take a shot at reserves. Our reserves, the municipalities, that they don't spend enough, but you're absolutely right, as I heard in comments previously, they're land banking land, basically, which is kind of the same thing because it goes up in value as well. And I just wanted to say, for the public, I think to understand how incredibly expensive this is going to be for the municipalities, which means their taxes. So you had in your report that discounting DCs will cost the town 1.9 million. And I know that's not all of the DCs that we will see or will be restricted on. But just that 1.9 million annually means a 2.5% increase in the property tax for our residents. And I think that's really important because this is not about, you know, building homes faster, about a crisis in housing where we do need a choice in housing. This is not about that at all. But the costs for all of us are going to be incredibly high. And there'll be a lot of unforeseen things as we go along into that process. So it's going to be difficult times ahead. And I just wanted to let people know that. Thank you.
Thank you, Regional Councillor Dyes. I will ask Councillor Henry now to go ahead.
Through the chair, I just want to touch base on what Councillor Morin brought up, Tyler Morin, which that was a really good question because it's something I was also wondering about with regards to Bill 23 and not charging developer charges on geared to rent income type style dwellings. Does it not encourage builders to build more of those style homes? Does it not help with building more affordable housing in that one aspect, not the entire bill, that one aspect? Through the chair to staff.
So through the chair to Councillor Henry, yeah, so the bill does include a number of changes that seek to define what an affordable housing unit is. And then in the future through regulation, we'll also see what an attainable housing unit is. That's the one item that we don't know at this time. But we have heard that, yeah, by reducing some of the development related charges, it could have an impact and try to support some of those types of housing, which I think we all agree is needed. So in that regard, staff have indicated that could be a positive element, but a number of the other changes are not supported because they will seek to, I guess, subsidize new units that are not affordable and are not attainable.
And sorry, through the chair, to staff again, with regards to developer charges, when they are taken over time at a certain rate and put like in a pot, they can't be used for other projects, can they? Can they only be used for the project that they were taken for?
To Councillor Henry through the chair, they are held in a reserve fund and they are held to fund projects coming out of that particular reserve fund. So they are not necessarily an exact one-to-one relationship to that particular project, but they are based on the scope of infrastructure projects that we need over a determined period of time. So, for example, a DC that is collected under transportation can be applied to an expansion for Roslyn Road, or the town can change the timing of that slightly, a year, a few years here and there, and apply it to a different road. But as long as both roads are identified as growth-related projects.
Oh, so sorry, through the chair. So it can be taken for a different type of transit project. It can, as
long as it's identified within the DC background study. So it has to be within the approximate same time frame.
And the time in which we've taken the DC charges over time, we take them at a certain rate, let's say, and if inflation goes up, other costs go up over time, we've only pulled them at a certain rate. So therefore, there's a gap when the time comes to do that project, is there not?
Through the chair, yes.
We've taken them out. Yes.
Yes, so there is a gap, and that's the reason why we update our DC background study every 5 years, traditionally, to take a look at what are those gaps and adjust funding accordingly.
So therefore, the DC charges that we've taken over time not only fall short sometimes for the project by the time we get to them, but now with the new revisions to the bill is added on to that as well, correct?
Yes, through the chair. Yes, it is in addition to that. The DC legislation also states that we cannot pass on deficits to other building types, to other development types. So that's where the town is required to put that money, put that cash into those reserves in the long term to fund those exemptions or those, minor deductions, or, well, I shouldn't say minor, to deduct the deductions that are mandated now. And that's why they will now fall to the tax base. So the tax base will have to make up a portion of those.
Okay, understood. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, are there any other questions? Okay, seeing none, thank you very much.
I'll move it.
Marilyn Crawford, Regional Councillor Crawford has offered to move it. All in favor? Okay, none opposed, that's carried. Thank you very much, everybody. That's the end of item number 4 on the consent agenda. So let's move to the next item, which is discussion. We have one item, 2022 municipal election constituent feedback, verbal presentation by the CAO and the Manager of Public and Strategic Affairs. Please go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm going to take this for the CAO.
Okay.
As we prepare for the forthcoming strategic plan process, we wanted to provide Council an opportunity to discuss and reflect on the conversations you had while knocking on the door and with key stakeholders since being elected. This will ensure we capture the feedback while it's still top of mind. There will be further opportunity in the coming months to review and discuss member-specific priorities. And thank you. Last week, we received a great response to the release of your top priorities for the term. So that was very exciting, and we will continue to have those discussions. But for today, we're looking for feedback that you received at the door, including general themes and priorities you heard from constituents and stakeholders, what people want more of and less of, what specific initiatives, actions, and or projects people are talking about. So we just want a snapshot of what you heard during the election. And this information proves very valuable as we go through the strategic process. We'll keep it top of mind as we have various strategic plan sessions. So, Madam Chair, I'm recommending we go ward by ward, regional, then local, with the mayor wrapping up the discussion. This will avail everyone the opportunity to share their feedback. And so I'll turn it over to you to facilitate, if that's okay.
That's okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So we will start with Ward 1. We'll start with Regional Councillor Crawford, followed by Councillor Tyler Morin. Go ahead when you're ready.
2 words: road plumbing. Literally every single door I opened up said, now whether it's perceived, whether it's reality, I don't know what it is, but I was shocked at how little feedback I got on taxes. And I was astounded that this was the one priority that was almost consistent at every single door. That's it.
Very good. Thank you. Councillor Tyler Morin.
Getting information, thank you, Chair. Getting information out to all residents. That was a big thing too. They just don't know what's going on. Hopefully it doesn't sound like I'm tooting our horn, but we're doing a lot of great work. Staff does some amazing work. And I would say a lot of it, they just don't know. So that is something like most of you know, Marilyn Crawford, Regional Councillor Crawford and I have our ward meetings. We've all done hard copy handouts. The sort of the missions statements that we all just did, it was suggested that those be also available in hard copy at the libraries and at the community centers and at the seniors clubs, because a lot of people don't go on Twitter every morning or our Facebook pages. So for me, being accessible to my residents, or to our residents, I should say, and getting information to them somehow, some way. I know we all try and do it, but that's a huge priority. Whether it's something more immediate like snow removal, plows are coming, that kind of thing, or just telling them a bigger project that's coming up, where you always hear it. I didn't hear anything about that. And that's not to excuse the amount of money and the amount of effort that already has been put forth. I don't know if we have to work smarter or come up with some different strategies or more of what we're doing, but that was another thing that I had heard. And I'm not going to repeat what Regional Councillor Brandon Crawford just said. Heard the same thing as well. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Moving to Ward 2, we'll start with Regional Councillor Lee, then Local Councillor Henry. Go ahead.
4 words, road calming and parking. So very similar to Regional Councillor Crawford. We have a lot of road calming. And to her point, we don't know if it's perceived or not, but it's just like that's how they feel. And we have to do a responsibility and just communicate of what the perception is. And then, parking, we're addressing in the next meeting after this as well. But, I'll bring it up at the meeting. So parking in general. And then just adding on to what Councillor Tyler Morin was saying, the ability to communicate the message is actually more important than some of the work we're doing, because to the point we're doing all this good news and they only feel we share this news during an election time, which obviously isn't true. Like we're shouting it from the rooftops of, non-tax revenue and innovation and all this stuff, but they don't know what's going on. And so it's just like something like we're going to experience it again. Like we're already seeing snow now of just like, what are the rules? Why don't we have windrow clearing? We're going to get those questions. And I have not been a councillor as long as Crawford, Dyes, and Collier, but just like we seem to be getting those questions every year. So if that's the case, it means like there's a gap there of how we're communicating some really basic information, and especially with planning, right? And all these provincial issues we are being burdened with. It's really important to show what the town is doing and like how much this is going to cost us. And it's not random stats we're pulling from the air. These are cold hard facts, and being able to communicate to the residents so that they can be more involved with their community. Like for a bedroom community, Facebook chat groups shouldn't be your primary source of information. It should be the town. So whether it's like we have another version of IMO that's just like updates and like our own CNN, so to speak, like that is, I think, a really important priority for us, so that we're able to get these messages out, whether it's quickly, like Rob was saying, with like, snow clearing, or whether it's more long-term, like we're saying with planning. And that's it for me. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councillor Henry.
So the same thing as my colleagues have been saying. Literally almost every house I went to was crime, traffic calming measures, speeding around school zones, parking, so many parking issues, driveways, residents feeling that their driveway, and we're going to speak to this in the motion, so I'm not going to go into it a lot, but feeling that they didn't, have appropriate parking. There was some comments about the election itself. I don't know if you want to hear that now. Is this the appropriate place to what residents were saying with regards to not knowing there was an election?
Through the chair, Madam Chair, I would direct that to Nicole Cooper, and I do believe there will be other opportunities to debrief on the election itself. But Nicole?
Okay. So then traffic and crime being the number one thing I heard at the doors that residents want to address. Information pieces, they don't feel, again, what other councillors have reiterated, they don't feel that they're getting enough information. A lot of people are not checking on social media for town information. I think they want hard pieces of literature. I personally like everything online, but apparently a lot of other people do not. They want to see it in their mailbox. They want information on how to contact their counselor, how to contact their trustee, to understand the difference between what a local and regional counselor does. I had one trustee say to me that she had counselor questions at the door, and when she said, "Oh, this is for your counselor," her feedback was, "Well, that's you passing it off." And she says, "No, it's not. It's not my field." So there's, a lot of misunderstandings and a lot of concerns about traffic and traffic calming measures and crime.
Thank you very much. Okay, let's move to Ward 3, Regional Councillor Dyes. Take it away.
Thank you, Chair. Well, I have to say, I had some wonderful comments at the door from constituents, residents in the south who love our trails and love the waterfront. They really like the new bridge, which is gorgeous. And they're very happy. I think over COVID, people have found a new appreciation for the environment. So there was a lot of concerns expressed about, the environment, and saving the wetland was part of that, of course, still fresh in people's minds. So they're very, very concerned about the environment. They have seen what the 407 has done, for example, with pushing a lot of the wildlife down to the south. So we have a lot more coyotes down here and deer and things like that, because they no longer have corridors to thrive in and go north in. So there was that. There was the homelessness issue, which I heard a lot about, and concerns expressed about that. We had many people really expressing the fact that they felt very disconnected with the community. And I think that's part of COVID. We were just coming out of it that spring and getting back into a normal life. And I still saw that there was a lot of anxiety about that, particularly going into the fall with the schools. So we have some ideas on how to deal with that, Councillor Bauer and I. We also had a lot of anxiety around intensification and developments in the area because it's changing the look of our community. And there was really a lack of understanding of what that looks like, what's driving that. So again, we can do some work there. Traffic calming, yes, is always an issue. And it's kind of crazy right now. I noticed that myself. And the last one I would say not last, but the other one that was prominent was choices in housing. So we do need to provide different choices for different people with different incomes. So thank you.
Thank you very much. I echo what Regional Councillor Dyes has said about our ward. Definite discussion, worries, concerns brought up about homelessness in the town, in our ward. Speed, traffic calming, so speeding, dangerous driving, disobeying stop signs. Do the bollards work or do they not work? How do I get in touch with someone from the town of Ajax to come and look at my street? Who decided to put what where? So those kinds of questions. Questions about safety, so worries in particular about the increase or perceived increase of graffiti across the ward, maybe across the town, and does that mean that is connected with community safety, with crime, things like that, and how do we take care of that and get rid of it as soon as possible or clean it up? Are our parks well lit? Are they lit enough? Our parking lots, are they well lit enough? Our trails, are they marked? So trail crossings between roads, if it's not a crosswalk, are there markings? Can they have them? Because they're worried about everybody crossing at those sections, but there's no markings. And traffic, because of speed, is, they're just worried about someone getting hurt. Intensification and planning, so big concern about what's coming into their neighborhoods. Are these monster builds? Are they respecting the character of the neighborhood? How do we get a say of what's happening? Who do we talk to? So communication, definitely an issue. So safety, parkways, the state of repairs. Oh, lots and lots of comments actually about leash-free areas for our dogs, and mostly about the residents who choose to walk their pets off leash in areas that are not leash-free. And so just that concern of not enough places to bring the dogs, or for residents who are walking, the fear of having a dog run over to them in an area that the dog should be leashed. So that actually came up quite a bit. And then, of course, always our service for our seniors, better transit, more communication. Are we doing enough for them? They want that senior center. They want that town-run senior center. So I think that's the bulk of it. Lots and lots of positive comments for sure. Lots and lots of constructive comments for sure too. So it was a great experience, great opportunity. And as Joanne had said, it was a big disconnect over the COVID years. So it was kind of nice to be able to get out there and really, really listen. So I think that's it for me right now. Thank you. Oh, and let's go to the mayor. I forgot about it. I thought we were finished with me. Please go ahead, Mayor Collier.
People don't tell me anything. No, it was actually, Lisa, you're right. Like I had more positive comments this time round than ever before. Probably all the other elections combined had more positive comments this time round about how we dealt with COVID, about the maintenance and cleanliness and upkeep at the town, about our paid permit parking system down at the lake, about a number of different things. The automatic speed enforcement was a good one. This is the first time where taxes wasn't the number one thing, not even close. Most people felt that talked to me, and we knocked on many thousand doors. Most people actually felt that things were pretty darn good in the town, and we're pretty happy. You always are going to get the 15% or so that no matter what you do are not going to be happy. And I get that, and I listen to them, and I try and give some feedback. But for the most part, everybody seemed pretty satisfied, which was nice because I'd never had that before. Maybe that was just they're saying to my face at the door. I don't think so. I think I felt it was genuine. What I did hear, community safety, obviously, is one that but people understand. It's not just Ajax, it's everywhere. Like, don't listen to just what you see online or, oh, that's Ajax. No, it's not. It's everywhere. And most people understand that. But we are doing what we can, and unfortunately, it's sort of the way that all municipalities are going. The homelessness, of course, which was brought to light by some other groups. And we're first out of the gate to take the region up on their program and our facility. I'm not sure when it opens. I think, is it open? Our shelter, or very soon on Station Street, 27th Station Street.
I think today was soft open.
Pardon?
I think today they announced it as a soft open.
Yeah, so I mean, we're doing what we can. I explain that to people, and they understand it's going to take time. It's a process. Snow removal. I would like to see the senior snow removal program expanded. Obviously, it'll be at a higher cost, and I explain that to people. If people want to have a higher level of service, I explain to them we can do that, but we'll need, the cost will be reflected. And so maybe we have a tier 1 and a tier 2, or we already have it. Maybe we look at expanding those. Parking, I heard opposite as to what's in the motion in our next meeting, really. A lot of people, when I talked about the boulevard, what we did last time with our paid parking permitting system, with making some changes to our on-street parking permits, to our boulevard encroachment bylaw, and to our driveway widening bylaws, most people, if they weren't aware and they were talking about it, and I explained that to them, they go, oh, good, okay, I'm going to look into that. But those that did talk about parking don't like people parking on the street in front of their house, that's for sure. But I'll save those comments for the next meeting. Speeding, of course, and I talked about hopefully expanding the automatic speed enforcement this term, now that we've had it run for almost a year and we get our update. I'm hoping that we can look at expanding that. One thing that bothered me was I found a lot of voter apathy. I think a lot of people were happy, but a lot of people just really didn't care. Like, let me get back to when I'm watching on TV, I don't want to talk to you at the door. I don't think the literature was really received by a lot. I think it went right in the blue bin. I saw a lot of it just on the ground and in the blue bin. So I did explain to a few people who I think, Sterling, you said it, about how come you're only here every 4 years? Outside of COVID, if you leave your house and go out, you'll see all of us at everything all the time. And if you follow social media, you'll see all that. So I politely explained that. And again, that speaks to the apathy. But overall, and finally, I concur with the leash free. I think we need more of them. I've been talking to TRCA about making all of North Greenwood up on Church Street at Church and 5th Concession. We're not there yet. Mr. Meredith, you're still here. I haven't forgotten. I'll be bringing that up again, but we're still following up on that. But I think we need more. A lot more people got dogs during COVID. And the reason why people are walking them off leash in undesignated areas is because we don't have enough designated areas. So that's one I want to see as part of our strat plan. And I found some NIMBYism you know, like Lisa was saying about protecting how did you put it? The heritage features?
Character.
Yeah. And in your area, like in the wartime homes and things, yeah, they don't appreciate it. But that's just, it's going to happen. It's going to happen. And people often will feel that way, but you don't get to pick what happens on your neighbor property. Everybody has the right to do what they want with their home. So they have the opportunity to apply. And I just explained that politely to people. But overall, I found people were mostly happy, and those are the few things that were mentioned, but they weren't real strong for the most part.
Thank you, Mayor Collier. And sorry, I forgot one thing, our beloved downtown Ajax. Always top of mind for Ward 3 residents, what's happening with our beloved downtown. So thank you for that. And so I think, did everybody remember to say what they wanted to say?
Well, you just touched on a good point, Lisa. The other thing was growth. And for the most part, people just seem to be recognize that it is required and we are going to have increased density.
Councillor Tyler Moran?
No, I'm okay. We can be here all day. I'm okay for now with that. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. McClarty, go ahead.
Thank you very much for this feedback and the comments. We're going to wrap it up. We'll put it together. And the next time we're discussing priorities for the next term, we'll have this information available for you to consider. And please come at that point to ready to discuss your priorities. And we'll have staff available for further chats. The directors will be involved in that process. And we're looking forward to initiating that towards the end of January, early February. So look forward to that. Thank you.
Great. Thank you very much. No other questions for Ms. McClarty, right? Okay, let's move. Item 6, presentations, none. Item 7, closed session, none. Let's move to item 8, the adjournment. May I please have a mover to adjourn the meeting? I see Councillor Tyler Moore. All in favor? And we're done. Thank you very much, everybody.
Can we get like a 5-minute recess between the meetings?
Let's do 10.
Attaboy.
And
good job, Madam Chair. Good job, Madam Chair.
Everybody take a quick bio break, and I'll need you back here for the resolutions, please.
10 minutes?
1:45?
Thank you.
45?
And we are live.
Oh, great. This meeting of Ajax Council is being held electronically and live streamed on the town's website. All members of Ajax Council, all members of council in attendance are participating by audio and video teleconference, and town staff are available throughout the meeting if council members have any questions on the agenda. For members of the public watching from home, please bear with us if we encounter any technical difficulties throughout the meeting. I'll now call this meeting to order. I'd like to begin this meeting by acknowledging that the land on which we gather is situated within the traditional and treaty territory of the Mississaugas, more specifically the Mississaugas of Scugog Island First Nation, signatories of the Gunshot Treaty of 1788 and the Williams Treaties of 1923. This land is and will continue to be home to Indigenous peoples. Let us acknowledge the mistakes and traumas of the past through authenticity and support truth and reconciliation. Let us engage and celebrate Indigenous communities by being leaders of action and acknowledging the United Nations Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous Peoples and the Truth and Reconciliation Commission's recommendations towards truth and reconciliation. Let us keep these principles close as we continue towards truth and reconciliation and as we move forward with kindness and respect as a community. Does any member of council have any declaration of pecuniary interest on tonight's agenda or this afternoon's agenda? Hearing, seeing none. Moving on to the minutes. I have moved by Councillor Bauer, second by Councillor Tyler Morin, that the following minutes of previous council meetings be adopted. The regular meeting of September 26, 2022, the special meeting of November 8th, 2022, the inaugural meeting of November 28th, 2022, and the special meeting of November 29th, 2022. Questions, comments, or submissions on the minutes? No? Hearing none. Those in favor of approval of the minutes, please raise your hands. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That is carried. Mr. Clerk, was there any submissions under question period?
No, there were not.
Okay. No delegations or presentations. Items of correspondence. Any polls? I just want to speak to one of them, and that's to do with the Envision Durham one. But I've got a correspondence moved by Councillor Dye, second by Councillor Lee, that the items of correspondence be adopted. I'm just going to speak to the one. I don't remember what number it is, but it's the one to do with the Envision Durham. And just, I hope members of council, especially regional council, have had the opportunity to read this full report. The decision was made by regional council, unsupported by Ajax, to choose scenario 2A, which was urban sprawl, the build development lobby group recommended proposal. We, as you all know, supported scenario 5, but would accept scenario 4 as a compromise. This report now, as part of the Envision Durham process, speaks to now the region has said, okay, we need to expand our urban settlement boundary expansion area by 9,400 acres. Where should those acres be? And it's all of Northeast Pickering. All of it. There's other lands in Clarington. There's other lands in other weight belt areas that are contiguous, which is just a matter of straightening the line in other areas. But this is all Northeast Pickering. And the other thing is now with Bill 23 coming forward and changes being made through Bill 109 as well, and lands being taken out of the Greenbelt, none of those things are being factored into this urban boundary settlement expansion. And that's something that we really need to be making well known, loud and clear to the province. And I will be bringing this up, and I hope my councillors at the region will also be bringing this up at the region. I'll be bringing it to planning committee, that we need to pause that MCR process and look at what the impacts are of these things, because a number of these lands are being double counted. And now with the extra lands being taken out of the Greenbelt that nobody foresaw before this process, those need to be accounted for. And we do not need all this urban settlement area expansion, all this sprawl. So I just want to make that very clear to everybody, especially the public, if anybody is watching this, that is on the agenda today. And I think everybody should read that and should understand that, because it is incredibly important. And I'm not going to pull it for support or anything, because we don't support it. I don't, but it's just, it's there for information. Does any member of council have anything further on items of correspondence before I call the vote? No, okay. Those in support of receipt of the items of correspondence. Let me see your hands. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's enough. Moving forward. Next, we have reports, Community Affairs and Planning Committee. Actually, let me just look at the agenda here. Yeah, Community Affairs and Planning Committee. Moved by Councillor Dye, second by Councillor Henry, that the Community Affairs and Planning Committee report dated December 5th, 2022 be adopted. Any questions or comments on the CAP? Nope. Those in favor of approval? Let me see your hands, please. Any opposed? None opposed. That's carried. Next item is the General Government Committee, December 12th, 2022. Moved by Councillor Bauer, second by Councillor Lee, that the General Government Committee report dated December 12th, 2022 be ratified. Anything on the meeting we just had, folks? Nope. Those in favor of ratifying, please raise your hands. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That's carried. Are there any regional council reports? Councillor Lee.
I mean, just, you know, we shared this previously, but I think it should be bear noting that Regional Councillor Crawford is the chair of transit. So we're looking for continuing the success we've had of having Ajax representation as the chair of transit. And Regional Councillor Dyes is the vice chair of health and social services, which is also very exciting. Mayor Collier just got sworn in on police board. And I'm not doing anything this term. I'm just really going to relax. But I hope to be returning to the Anti-Racism Task Force, as well as the Business Advisory Center of Durham's board. But I think that comes later on. So yeah, big successes for Ajax. And I think I speak for the whole team. Just we're very excited for this term and what we hope to achieve with the region.
Thank you. And Councillor Crawford is continuing your work on Works, as well as taking over on Central Lake Ontario Conservation Authority as well. And Councillor Dyes, congratulations on Vice Chair of Health and Social Services, but also you're going to maintain on TRCA.
Yes.
Sterling, you've talked about the ones you're on, and I am taking over on planning. So Sterling and I have swapped this time around. So yeah, I think we have a very strong team at the region. Looking forward to hopefully getting a lot done. Anything further? Councillor Dyes.
Just to add to that, I just wanted to share my appreciation actually for the orientation that all of the regional councillors and mayors did at the region. We did 2 days of that, and it was really well done. We had updates from all of the departments, all of their staff in the management area, and also went on tours of various facilities. So it was a great orientation, very helpful for those of us who've been there and sometimes have not been to certain facilities, but particularly for new people. So I applaud staff. They did a great job on that. Thank you.
Excellent. Councillor Crawford.
Yeah, just really quickly, I think what I enjoyed the most was the tour of the Health and Social Services. It really gave me a whole new appreciation for the work that the region does in that area. It's very, I feel like it's kind of understated. It was kind of all about COVID over the last 2-3 years, but my gosh, they do so much for people in need, and I was so impressed. That tour alone really opened my eyes to the vastness of what they do. So Joanne's right. It was a really long day, but it was a really, really good day. Really good day. Thank you.
Excellent. Anything further? Any questions on regional council reports? I actually should have it on the floor. Moved by Councillor Crawford, second by Councillor Dyes, that the regional council reports be received for information. Those in favor? That is carried. Thank you. Moving on to notice of motion. Council participation in OMERS pension plan, moved by Councillor Lee, second by Councillor Crawford. Councillor Lee, please go ahead.
Thank you, Chair. I believe there's some updated wording on, I believe the clerk has that now. The crux of it ultimately is I just want to kind of align our compensation to what a lot of other municipalities in Durham region as well as Ontario currently have. I like the idea of having to pay into like the members, like, council members who choose to opt into it, having to match the town's contributions. It just, again, I come from a sales background, and I believe that I should have some skin in the game, so to speak, and that this encourages that rather than just getting the lump sum, which some people may or may not choose. So again, this is more about harmonizing the comp to other municipalities, and I hope to count on your support for this. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Crawford is the seconder.
Just echo what Regional Councillor Lee said. Really, I have nothing more to add.
Any other member of council wish to speak to the motion? I just want to, hold on a second. Looks like the slight amendment has been made. Do we need an amendment for that? The red lettering that's on the screen, or is that just a friendly, Councillor Lee?
Sorry, I thought that the red is a friendly.
Okay, I appreciate that. I will be supporting this. I didn't last time, or I wouldn't have if it had come forward last time, but I think it is time now, and I think it is appropriate to bring this forward. And those of us who have been here a while can opt out, but I think it's important that it is a slight savings to the town, but I think it is something to recognize a position and is something that is required at this point. So absolutely will support. I assume you want to record a vote, Councillor Lee?
I didn't, to be honest. We can do one. I think we're okay. But anyways,
I'll call for a recorded vote. This is important.
I'm so sorry, Mayor. I'm sorry. I do have one quick question.
Go ahead, Councillor Bauer.
Based on the amendment that you put up there. So by mirroring the contribution rates of the OMERS plan, I guess as far as the town contribution, so that would reduce the 10% to 9%?
Correct.
Okay.
The way it works, Councillor Bauer, is there's what do you call it? The YMPE, yearly maximum pension, whatever it is, which is somewhere around the $60,000 mark, I think. So up to that limit, it's 9%. Then over that limit, it's a different percent. So by adding the wording to the bottom, it only affects me, and it keeps it in line, because otherwise it would be a reduction for me if I opted out. So all that lettering is basically saying what the town pays towards mine is the same whether I opt in or opt out.
So then if,
that's by mirror.
Let's say, okay, thank you for that. If I choose to opt out of OMERS, would I be receiving 10% of my base salary for my RSP?
No, you would
9%.
9%, I believe, Councillor Lee. Or perhaps is Mary Lou on? But yeah, good question, Councillor Bauer. I think you're correct. It would reduce.
Okay, so then I would have an issue with the motion, or maybe with the amended wording. Could that be specific to the mayor?
I didn't actually foresee anybody opting out, so I was a bit selfish when I suggested the wording to Councillor Lee as my comments. But you are correct, and perhaps if the mover and seconder would be agreeable, it should be, and I'll look to staff for wording, but something to the effect that if you opt out, it's maintained at the current level for councillors or something. Because you are right, Councillor Bauer, it would be a reduction.
Thank you.
I believe.
If that's the case, then wouldn't the amendment wouldn't it not be mirroring the contribution rates of the OMERS plan? Because right now it says that it's either or right now, if I'm not mistaken, right? Like you get to pick whether you want to go the OMERS or the thing. So what you're suggesting, wouldn't the wording just be to remove that part?
Well, let's get staff to address this first, Councillor Lee. Is Councillor Bauer correct that if a councillor opted out, they would go to 9% from 10%?
Through the chair, this is Samantha Patterson. My understanding is, yes, if we go with the wording on the screen as is, that there would be a reduction to 9% under the YMPE, and then 14.6% over that amount.
Okay, so let me try and assist here, because I don't think anybody wants anybody to be negatively affected by this, by opting out. So what would be required to make it, because by mirroring, I'm okay with it because on the amount under, it's actually a decrease, but the amount over, it's a slight increase. So it basically averages out. But for a counselor, that would be a different situation. So what would be the solution to that? Does the clerk have any wording that could remedy this?
Okay, we'll give it a shot, but Jason and I are just communicating here. And to be honest, we're just not familiar enough with the subject matter or have sort of the depth of understanding to propose some wording here. But I mean, Mr. Mayor, you seem to have a good handle on it. So if there's something you could propose, that would be very helpful to us. But if not, we can maybe just take a couple minutes and confer.
Can I ask the mover and seconder, can we leave this with the clerk for 10 minutes while we deal with the next two motions and come back?
Yep, I'm good with this.
Okay, so let's table this just for a couple minutes and we'll move on to the next motion and we'll come back. While they work on some wording. So next we have harmonizing regional council remuneration, moved by Councillor Crawford, second by Councillor Lee. Councillor Crawford, please go ahead.
Yeah, this is really, I think, just housekeeping. I didn't even really know that this happened, but many municipalities have their regional salary paid out through the town, and then they invoice the region for the salary. And so I'm just asking that be done here at Ajax. I didn't even know it was an option. I didn't think it needed a motion, but here we are with a motion. So that's all I'm asking, is that the regional portion of our pay be paid out through the town and invoiced back through the region.
Councillor Lee, do you wish to speak to this as a seconder?
Nothing to add. Thank you, Chair.
Any other member of council? I'll just simply add, this has zero impact to the taxpayer. Zero impact. What happens to us at the region is we end up at the end of the year receiving 2 T4s. And for those that have ever worked for 2 companies before, you know, one will tax you based on your income at that company and the other one will tax you based on your income at the other company. But combine the 2 together, you're not being taxed at the right level and you're actually paying double CPP and double. So it's just not an efficient method. I think we're the only municipality in the region that doesn't do it this way. So this, you are right, Councillor Crawford, this is just simply a housekeeping that has zero impact on the taxpayer. Did we want to record a vote on this, Councillor Crawford?
I don't require it, but if you want to do it, it's fine.
Okay, those in favor of harmonizing regional council remuneration? All right, that's unanimous, thank you. Moving on to the next. Residential parking permit program, moved by Councillor Lee, second by Councillor Henry. Councillor Lee, please go ahead.
Thank you, Chair. I will read the therefores and then kind of go into this of just staff be directed to present a report to council or the appropriate standing committee on the cost, timeline, scope, and potential funding sources for an updated town-wide residential parking permit RPP study by no later than March 2023. And the study shall include a minimum examination of existing on-street parking supply, potential scope of the program, estimated costs and cost recovery mechanisms for the town, integration with the town's existing on-street parking programs and bylaws, estimated participation rates of residents and visitors, and estimated timelines for development and implementation. So this will look familiar because I brought this up last year and I was told, listen, you know, we have to kind of wait for this system to kind of play out, and we did. And I don't think I'm prone to exaggeration when I speak to my colleagues and speak on things. I don't say that, oh, the sky is falling. But when I say like almost everybody uniformly in Ward 2 in very specific areas had problems with parking, I'm not exaggerating. And it's just like it's the byproduct of the way the OPAs have advanced. Where in North Ajax, where a lot of newer developments happen, houses are built closer together. You know, driveways are built smaller, and the byproduct of that is now, because of the housing crisis, families are staying longer. We have 35 to 40-year-olds staying with their parents because they can't afford a house. So the fact of the matter is we have more cars. And I've heard the logic before. You should buy the house that is appropriate for the number of cars you have. But again, nobody in any projection we ever had said we're going to have this kind of crisis in 2022, right? And I kept bringing it up previously, but now we're at a point where it's just like we need sort of action, because what's happening right now is these residents are getting tickets repeatedly, and that's not a solution to these residents. Like, we can't just say to them, well, deal with the tickets. Like, I'm looking for like some sort of long-term solution. And the example I always use is Toronto is a very good example, where I lived there for many years. I think many councillors have as well, where you could buy a 6-month pass that allows you to park certain parts of the street. Is it going to solve all the problems? No, but I think it's going to show that our residents of, yes, we understand that there are certain streets where there's no development that impacts nobody, then yeah, we could put a few cars there to alleviate the parking issue. And you have to walk a block or two, but it's better than repeatedly getting tickets over and over and over. Like, I don't know, like, that's not an end goal, especially when we're told, oh yeah, you can move into a bigger house. Where? There's no housing available. And that's what we've been going through the past, few months. So this is just, all I'm asking staff to do is provide a study. It's fun to study. Let's how much it's going to cost. We can decide at budget time, or if we have the money for a study. I don't think the study is going to cost that much, but again, it's providing a solution to a problem that we absolutely have. Again, I can't speak for all of Ajax, but absolutely have in North Ajax, and I would definitely appreciate everybody's support on that. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Henry, as a seconder.
Yes, through the chair, I reiterate what Councillor Lee said, and he said it very, very well. This was the second thing that I heard at the doors the most of. I literally had somebody bring in my whole team off the street and talk about this and what they had in Montreal. So for us in Ward 2, we are different than Wards 1 and 3. Our driveways are not as big, they're not as long. Many have bought homes to suit their families at the times when they bought the homes, but they're staying in their homes longer, and the kids have grown up. There's a lot of multi-generational families in Ward 2, where we now have those little kids that were first in that townhouse staying at home with mom and dad and going to college here in Durham, which we want. We want that. We encourage always Durham. And that's great, but the way that they're getting transported there, they have cars. Then we have elderly parents that are staying, and there's that sandwich generation. So we have anywhere in some of these homes in Ward 2, 6 to 8 people staying in the homes, and they're all from the same family, and that's wonderful. That's what we want to see. Stay in Durham, live here, especially in Ajax. Kids want to move out, can't afford a house, they're saving up for down payment. Again, they're getting hit multiple times through bylaw. Bylaw is just doing their job. This weekend alone, I received multiple emails and phone calls from Tribute-built Hamlet area. Woodcock had contacted me before. There's different areas, and I've got emails coming in, multiple emails now, where whole streets were hit, where bylaw was there and ticketed a whole street. And again, this is, not on bylaw, but we have to find a resolution for Ward 2 because we're built differently than Wards 1 and 3. And we're asking for fellow councillor support on this, please. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Crawford was next, and Councillor Tyler Moore, and then Bauer.
Thank you. I will definitely support this. I think that I actually really like our proactive parking enforcement. I think it has been amazing. It was rough in the beginning. Ward 1 is not the same as Ward 2. That is for sure. Ward 1, we have a lot of older homes, driveways that could house 10 cars. Honestly, they're so big. In some of the areas, some of the pockets, and even in my own neighborhood, it is an older established area. And so, the same scenario might be happening that's in Ward 2 with multi-generational people, but their housing and their driveways are differently designed. And we know this when we had our snowstorm last year. The plows were having a really difficult time, even without cars on the road, getting around Ward 2 because the roads are narrower. and just the way the whole neighborhood is designed. And I would support like a pilot, like if we didn't even look at the all of Ajax kind of thing, but a pilot that would be specific to Ward 2. Because I really think that that is the area that parking needs to be looked at. I could empty my garage out and still couldn't get my car in. So I'm not sure if that's the actual answer that anybody wants to hear, but that's the honest truth. My cars don't fit in my garage, and I have a big garage. Anyway, so I will support this, and I don't know if you guys are looking for a pilot or what the deal is, but I would definitely support this this look. That's all I got. Sorry, I'm done.
Okay, no problem. Sorry, I'm doing 10 things at once here. Next is Councillor Tyler Moore.
Thank you, Your Worship. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I really appreciate this review, and I will support this motion because we hear a lot about this in Ward 1 as well. It can get contentious, people get frustrated, and I think what we can show here is a tweak to what we did a little while ago. And I refer to it as a metaphor, game conditions, because the staff put in such good work. It goes out, and maybe it's not always practical and certainly not convenient. Not that bylaw needs to be convenienced, but they do a lot of hard work and a lot of hours put into, parking enforcement. So maybe there are tweaks needed to make this a little bit more fluid. Maybe, in short, I'm really glad this review is coming. We have challenges in Ward 1. I totally agree. It's different, but there's a lot of people that talk to us about parking here as well. Usually it's split between why is that person parked on the street and why can't I park in the street? So I'm looking forward to seeing staff review. And I don't take that lightly because I know staff's very busy, but I think this is important and happy to support.
Thank you. Councillor Bauer, you're next.
Thank you, Mayor Collier. Yes, I'll echo my colleagues' comments. Ward 3, the lack of parking or the need for extra parking or the complaint about parking definitely happens in some areas of Ward 3 too. So not everywhere, but in some. So I was happy to see this motion come back. I'm happy to see we need to have the information in order to make the decision. So that I'm happy to support this. And thank you for bringing it forward again. That's it.
Okay, that ends my speaker list. Anybody else? I'll just wrap up quickly. We did a lot of work last term on parking with our paid parking permit system down the lake, which was copied by other municipalities, which tells me we're doing something right. And I think we did receive an award on that by a municipal agency as well. By making some tweaks to our parking permit system, recognizing, we needed to make some modifications, which of course, by our boulevard encroachment bylaw redo and by our driveway widening bylaw redo. So we've done all those, and I think we should let them run their course and see where we are. But at the same time, I have no problem having staff look into this and report back to us in March. I just have a quick question. Why March? And I'd just like to ask staff, I guess Deval will be taking care of this, Mr. Rowanowski. Is that a reasonable timeline?
To council through the mayor. I don't know if March is a reasonable timeline. Maybe towards the end of March, maybe into April. We should take into consideration if we're looking at examining all existing on-street parking supply, like it's winter, there's snowbanks. I don't know how much of that evaluation that we could do from a desktop versus out in the real world. I think we might need a little bit more time when it comes to putting all these asks in the second part of the motion and working with our partner departments. So I would maybe ask that we have a little bit more time, maybe into April, the April timeline, early spring, to look at that with whatever direction council gives us today.
Well, Mr. Romanowski, just follow up. I see your hand, Councilor Lee. It looks like number one with the March timeline is just to report back on the cost, timeline, scope, and potential funding, not to do all the analysis. I think that will come after if council receives this in March and decides to go ahead. Is that correct, Councilor Lee? Okay. So given that, Mr. Romanowski, is that reasonable?
Well, I wouldn't be the only department working on this, so I would maybe look to my other partner departments that would be involved, like bylaw and operations. So Mr. Meredith or Director Cooper had anything to add there, just because we'd be using multiple resources in order to determine scope and funding and timeline, et cetera.
Okay.
Chair, I'm very happy to, and with the seconders agreement, to change that to April 2023. It's not so much, again, I was hoping to get it in for the budget, but I've been told by staff that there's different funding sources that we can go that aren't necessarily tied into the budget. So it's just like, if it is easier for staff, we can wait 30 days. I think the important thing is that we get the ball rolling on it as a whole. So it seems like people are pretty amenable with that. So I'm more than willing to move that to April, if the seconder is okay with that.
Seconder, Councilor Henry?
Yes.
Okay,
yes.
so we'll just amend that to April. I appreciate that. I've been pushing staff to make sure we get our strat plan going as quickly as possible. And I know they have a lot going on right now. So I just want to make sure that we're not setting an unrealistic time frame, because that is very important, I know, to get moving ahead. The only other thing I'll just add is Councilor Bauer pointed out, it's all wards, because we all have had infill townhouse developments, other things through all wards, and we never get as much parking as we want. But I just want to warn everybody, it's a bit of a slippery slope, because every one person you please, you may upset several others, because as I told you, I did have a lot of people say to me that they are very frustrated with the people parking on the street in front of their homes, especially in blocking driveways. So we may have a couple speaking wanting this, but there's a lot who aren't, who are quite happy with the way things are. So careful what you wish for, but I absolutely will support having a look at it. So with that, anybody else wish to speak on this? No? Those in favor? All hands. That's carried unanimously. Going back to the original motion on the OMERS, staff have prepared some wording of clarification, which I think covers it, Councillor Bauer. So just read it quickly. So striking, the town continue to provide the registered whatever and the mirrored and put to those that opt out of the OMERS plan, the town will continue to provide the registered retirement savings plan, 10% benefit to members of council, and the mayor receive 9% up to the yearly maximum, and at that 14.6 of the earnings over the yearly maximum, which exactly mirrors the OMERS plan. Does that satisfy? I believe this is an amendment, so I'll put that as an amendment by Councillor Bauer, if that's...
Yes, that's fine. You know, I didn't have an issue with your original amendment, except when it became, you know, when it became real that 10% would become 9%, just in case I decide to opt out.
Fair enough.
So thank you for that.
Can we get a seconder to that amendment? Councillor Henry? Okay. So moved by Councillor Bauer, second by Councillor Henry, and I'll just speak to it quickly because I know I'll be criticized because it specifically says the mayor. Just to anybody watching or anybody that reads this, whether I opt in or opt out, that paragraph, what the town is going to pay will remain the same either way. So it's not any special treatment, it's exactly the same. And every member of council, exactly the same. So just want to make that little point because I know it's going to come out.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. Thank you.
On the amendment, those in favor? That is carried. On the motion as amended, Councillor Lee?
Oh, no,
Are
sorry.
you voting? I had actually called for a recorded vote on this. So, Mr. Clerk, if nobody else wants to speak to it.
Thank you. On the motion, in favor or opposed, Regional Councillor Crawford?
In favor.
Councillor Dyes?
In favor?
Councillor Henry?
In favor.
Regional Councillor Lee?
In favor.
Councillor Tyler Morin?
In favor.
Councillor Bauer?
In favor?
And Mayor Collier?
In favor. That passes unanimously. So let me find my place again. I believe we are on to the bylaws. Actually, onto the bylaws. Moved by Councillor Bauer, seconded by Councillor Dyes. The bylaws number 70-2022 to 77-2022 and 80-2022 to 84-2022 be read a first, second, third time and passed. Those in favor? If there's no questions on the bylaw? I see them all. That is carried. And the next is, sorry, can we go back for 1 second? We didn't include number 78 and 79. I don't have the resolution, Mr. Clerk, for 78 and 79.
Mr. Mayor,
There's no resolution.
Sorry, there's no resolution in relation to those bylaws. They're just there for transparency and for council's information.
Okay. I do want to speak to this. Sorry, who's talking?
Sorry, Mr. Mayor. I was going to ask if we could have a moment to speak to this. Go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I'll put them on the floor. I'll just speak to it quickly. Because again, this is something that I know I was pretty heavily criticized over my position on this, and as well as several of my council colleagues. And I want to point out to the public that this was a decision that was actually taken out of our hands and made by the Ontario Land Tribunal. And that is because they appealed it to the Ontario Land Tribunal because they felt that we didn't make a decision at the town in a quick enough manner. So they basically, the decision making was taken out of our hands. So this is a bylaw that is being put into place as an order from the Ontario Land Tribunal, which means we are not at will to do this or not do this. We are being ordered to do this by an unelected government body outside of the town of Ajax. So I just want to make that very, very clear. This is what happens when we were asked as a council to not support this, which would have the same result. It gets transferred to an out of Ajax unelected body appointed by the province to make decisions for us on our behalf. It's always better to keep these decisions at this council to be made by those that the residents elect to make those decisions for them. And this is a case where that isn't the case. Do you have anything further to add to that, Councillor Henry? I see your hand as well, Councillor Crawford. Councillor Henry, do you have anything?
Yeah, I just wanted to make very clear to the residents watching at home that this is not a matter before us to be voted on.
Nope.
As you said, there is nothing we can vote on here. We are being told this is it. You have to implement it one way or another. It has to be done. And I just want to make that perfectly clear to all the Ward 2 residents.
Very good.
And thank you.
Councillor Crawford.
So this is new, right? I don't think I've ever seen this type of bylaw ever on our agenda. Am I correct?
Don't have that answer. Maybe perhaps the clerk could help.
I don't.
Yes, I'll just clarify. We've gone back and forth a little bit over time as far as how we present these on the agenda. They used to be presented as part of the correspondence package with a motion to just assign a number to them and enter them into our bylaw books, but that didn't really make a lot of sense anymore when we changed our correspondence package to just be for information only. So we're still kind of ironing out the best way to deal with these in the future. So I apologize if it created some confusion, but they this is certainly not the first time we've had bylaws imposed on the town by the OLT. That's happens quite regularly. But you're quite right that we haven't presented it exactly in this way before.
Okay, no, I have no objection to it. I know I've never seen it before, like in this format. So I actually like it. It's open, it's transparent, and it shows exactly what the two speakers prior just talked about. So I'm totally fine with it. I was just clarifying that we haven't seen it like this before.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Councillor Lee, I saw your hand.
If I'm not mistaken too, and correct me, I don't think we'll ever see it like this again, because didn't we kind of remove the ability to residents to appeal to the OLT? I think that's what the new provincial legislation, if I'm not mistaken. Can planning confirm that?
Perhaps,
back in.
is
Was
Ms.
that back in?
McCullough still here?
Through the chair, to Councillor Lee, that's the appeal rights related to OPAs and ZBAs, which these ones are, they were reinstated. So there are still third-party appeals for those ones, but not minor variance and land division.
Okay, never mind. Looking forward to seeing more of these then, possibly. Thank you, Chair. Just want to make that point.
Anything further? I'm happy to see it separated like this because I think it is important that we make those statements so the residents understand. Councillor Henry, you want back in?
Yeah, sorry. I just wanted to, through the chair to Councillor Crawford, it's my fault it's been separated. When I went through the agenda last week and I saw it was with the other bylaws, I asked a lot of questions to staff, and staff have been great and very patient with me for the learning curve. And I asked why it was in there if we weren't voting for it. And then it was explained to me and I said, then please, can we separate it? I don't want residents to think it's something we voted on when we have not. And if we could just see it in a different format. So that's my fault that it's been separated. But it was easier for me to voice that to the residents so that they could see that this was definitely not something any of us were voting on. Thank you.
Yeah. Anything further? Moving along, any notice of motion? Good. My battery's running low. My computer's going to die. Any new business and announcements? None?
Well, we can say, if I may, Mayor, just wanted to wish.
Go ahead.
So I want to wish everyone a happy holiday because I believe this is this the last one before Christmas?
Yes.
Okay, so happy holidays and all the best in the new year to all the residents of Ward 1. How's that? And Town of Ajax. And my council.
Town of Ajax.
Yes.
Councillor Lee.
I was going to echo the same thing. I just want to wish everyone a very safe holidays. You know, check out our snow plowing bylaw and our rules regarding that because we're going to get asked questions as the snow comes. And I hope Santa brings you a computer charger, Mayor, because apparently you need one right now. Thank you.
I left it at home. Further? I was just going to wrap things up by thanking all members of council for your hard work and dedication, to thanking all of our staff for everything you've done throughout the year, and to all residents watching. I hope, however you celebrate, Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, whichever, everybody has a great time off, and we see you all fresh and ready to go in the new year. Moving on to the confirming bylaw. Moved by Councillor Lee, second by Councillor Bauer, that the bylaw number 85-2022 being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of the Council of the Corporation of the Town of Ajax at its meeting held on December 12th, 2022 be read a first, second, and third time and passed. Those in favor? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's enough. That passes. And finally, moved by Councillor Henry, second by Councillor Crawford, the December 12th, 2022 meeting of the Council of the Town of Ajax be adjourned. Those in favor? This one's always unanimous. There you go. That's carried. Thank you very much, everyone.
Good job, everyone.
Thanks, everyone. Merry Christmas.